Proverbs 22:22 says, "Rob not the poor because he is poor, neither oppress the afflicted in the gate." We discussed the application of the first part of this text in our previous proverb devotional regarding those tempted to rob the poor by various means and by various motives. And the second half of this proverb might seem to be so obvious that there's no need for discussion, but you might want to consider what we're about to say regarding the admonition, "Neither oppress the afflicted in the gate." You see, when you read a reference to the gate, that refers to the town hall of ancient Israel. The gates of the city were not just places of entrance and exits, but they were also the place where men of authority, including what we might call today justices of the peace, would hold court. Seems a little strange to us because it's kind of outdoors, and all of our courts are in very nice indoor courtrooms with air conditioning and heating and all that. But many times the gate was a place that was covered, sort of like a covered patio. And in that day, even the indoors in the tropical Middle East, where Israel is located, was kind of open air. They had open ceilings, open windows, open doors, and they allowed air to pass through. So it wasn't much of a difference to meet under a covered area at the gate of the city where there was shade and plenty of air. We see Lot sitting in the gate in the city of Sodom, Genesis 19:1. And in verse 9, the men of Sodom expressed their resentment at his efforts to be a judge, but only when Lot judged their Sodomite sin in Genesis 19:7 and said, "I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly." Of course, then they're saying, "Well, don't judge," just like today's Sodomites. So the gate was a place of controversy many times in the Bible, including when Absalom was undermining the authority of his father, King David. We read about that in 2 Samuel 15:2 and 3. And Absalom rose up early and stood beside the way of the gate. And it was so that when any man that had a controversy came to the king for judgment, then Absalom called unto him and said, "Of what city art thou?" And he said, "Thy servant is one of the tribes of Israel." And Absalom said unto him, "See, thy matters are good and right, but there's no man deputed of the king to hear thee." So Absalom would sit in that place of judgment but undermine his father. He was being treasonous in the gate. But the purpose is open and fair judgment at the gate, especially for those being afflicted, which is why it says, "Neither oppress the afflicted in the gate." Moses stood in the gate of the camp in Exodus 32:26 in judgment. Women who were accused of fornication were either condemned or vindicated in the gate. You can see that in Deuteronomy 22:15. You might remember that Ruth, when she was married to Boaz, it was legally recognized in the gate by the people and the elders. That's in Ruth 4:11. And we see Daniel, who was the regent king of Babylon, ruling over Babylon, only second to the king himself. Daniel 2:49 says, "Then Daniel requested of the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel sat in the gate of the king." By application, most of us aren't going to put on a robe and be a judge in our setting today, and very few people actually sat in the gate as judge, but it applies across the board. We should be careful that when we ever stand in any place of authority or that we're called upon to judge a matter or a situation, we should be fair. And in the words of Jesus in John 7:24, "Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment." And again, Amos 5:15 says, "Hate the evil and love the good, and establish judgment in the gate. It may be that the Lord God of hosts will be gracious unto the remnant of Joseph." That's the principle of judgment and judging in the gate. And that's the biblical advice for us all in this proverb. That's what we should get out of this reading. "Rob not the poor because he is poor, neither oppress the afflicted in the gate."